Welcome back. In this section, we're going to cover two sections, part 16 and part 17. Both are kind of short. We'll be going over workplace issues and substance abuse. To get started, there's all kinds of workplace issues. Every place you work, and a lot of people think that it's just EMS, but every job has its own internal politics. There's going to be people who stick to one group, and there's going to be cliques that form. There's going to be the popular folks versus the non-popular folks. That's just the facts of life about any type of social situation. However, it's important, what we all have to realize is that we don't have to get caught in the middle of the politics. We need to respect everyone in every role that is there. Everyone from the janitor to the paramedic to the program director to the dispatch director, dispatchers, everything. We need to realize that each person is different, but each person is vitally important to the overall mission. We tend to forget about how much we need other people, and we need others to help us accomplish our job and to meet our goals. We need to communicate respectfully, even with somebody you don't like. And I'm not saying that you have to like everybody, because there's going to be people you do not like to work with, that your ideals just clash and stuff. But when you're at work, you need to be respectful and communicate respectfully with each other on a call, outside of a call, or whatever, because all that can affect patient care, and it's not kosher when it starts to affect patient care. Use cultural diversity as a resource, and a lot of times why people don't get along and things happen is because they don't understand. They don't understand each other's culture, where they come from. You have so many different types of cultures, and people forget that America is a melting pot of cultures. Even within the United States, you've got Southern versus Northern versus Western versus Eastern, East Coast, West Coast, and then even within the South. Let's look in the South. You got Florida, you've got Alabama, Georgia, you got different states, different counties. Everybody has a different point of view on the way life works. Within the country, you have Democrats and Republicans, libertarians. It goes on and on, but we need to understand them and respect them, because they have a right to have their point of view, just like you have a right to have your point of view. And it doesn't mean that you have to accept it, doesn't mean that you have to condone it. It just means that when you're at work, you need to get along. Learn to relate effectively with other cultures, because a lot of cultures, we have similarities. And if you can find the similarities, then maybe you can get along well and stuff. And consider learning another language. I would love to learn another language. I've tried. It's just having the time to do it. My daughter speaks pretty good Spanish, and I try to play around with it whenever she's talking and learn stuff from her. But it would be very beneficial. There have been many times when I've been on scene and I really wished I knew Spanish. So some workplace issues that you need to be very aware of is you need to avoid sexual harassment, because that is one way that will get you fired. Not only might it get you fired from one location, but that will follow you, and all the other services will know, because EMS is a tight-knit community. And even though one employer may not supposed to tell another employee these intricate things, but words get out, people talk, and things will come back to haunt you. So avoid being on that end of sexual harassment. If you're on the other end of sexual harassment, don't stand for it, because if you're standing for it, well then think about who else is being sexually harassed. And just because you're not in the middle of it doesn't mean that you don't have a right to report it. You should report it. Do not tolerate it. So, two types. You got the quid pro quo, which means, hey, somebody's doing something, doing a favor, a sexual favor for something in return. Well, that's not fair. If I'm a candidate to become a supervisor, and I refuse to have sexual relations with the person that's going to promote me, and then I don't get promoted, well then, or maybe I do get promoted. Maybe I go ahead and I do it. Well, that doesn't mean I deserve it. So you should get promoted and you should get favor based on your merits in the fairest way possible. And the hostile work environment is not acceptable. And a lot of people think hostile work environment means, oh, the supervisor's mean. No, that doesn't mean the supervisor's mean. It means that you're being discriminated against because you turned down someone for a sexual advance. So, just the best thing to do is just don't not participate in it. The next thing we're going to talk about is perceptions. So, perceptions, not intent, matter, and it goes two different directions. Number one, if you are doing something and someone else perceives it as a different way, well, that's not good either. You may not mean for it to mean something bad, but your actions have kind of contributed to it being bad. And that's not very helpful. Now, if you were on the other end and you were perceiving something as bad, have an open mind to know that, hey, do they really mean to be this disrespectful? What's going on? What was the intention behind it? And sometimes more than not, the intentions are not there to be hateful or malicious or whatever. Ask for clarification. Have an open mind. Be willing to forgive and move on. However, if there is any form of harassment, it needs to be reported to a supervisor. Not only report it to a supervisor, you need to keep notes. Alright, so this is going to be part 17, substance abuse, which is going to be really short. And most of us know what substance abuse is. This is utilizing illegal or maybe even legal substances in a way that is not intended. For example, like overuse of alcohol, use of street drugs or prescription drugs or over-the-counter drugs can be a form of substance abuse. And substance abuse, what it does is it can increase risk and tensions on the job, because whenever you're abusing specific substances, you can be more angry, you can be more agitated, or you may be too laid back, or you might not do your job correctly and someone else has got to come back and fix it, or you may be making errors, people could become injured and stuff. Can lead to poor treatment decisions because your mind's not focused and you're not making good, sound judgment decisions that are intended to help our patient. So if you are someone who is abusing substances, you need to seek help. But if you're not, and your partner is, or you know someone who is, or your friend is, you need to find a way to confront them. You may need to ask for help yourself to confront them. Because just think about this, if you know someone is abusing substances and they go out in the field and they injure someone or someone dies, well then that's kind of just as much your responsibility as well, because you could have done something about it. So just remember, you have a responsibility for good patient care, and that can begin right there. And trust me, right then and there, your friend or your coworker may not be happy about what's going on, but in the end, whenever they're getting help and they're getting professional help and they're getting counseling and they're talking about these things, in the end, when their career has been saved and their family's been saved and their own life has been saved and no one else has been injured, they will appreciate what you've done. Most employers have EAPs. This is an employee assistance program, and that's what it's there for. The EAP is a third-party organization that is not part of the organization where you work at, so you can contact them independently. They do not report to your employer why you're utilizing them or what services are being used, or I don't even, from what I understand, they do not report that you're even using them. Now, they do have to report numbers that so many people have used it because that's how they get paid, but there's a lot of services that EAPs offer. They offer marriage counseling, financial counseling, substance abuse counseling and assistance, and so on. So it's a resource there. It's there for you to use, and it's very beneficial. So that concludes these two parts, and we're going to continue moving on. We have a few more parts to go. Our next part will be over death and dying.